Hello and good afternoon or good morning, wherever you are in the world. You're very welcome, as always, to our Always Getting Better webinars. So, as always, we've reached the point in the month where we've released yet another great update into the Enterpryze platform. And as always, it's been a seamless update to your system. So as of yesterday morning, when you signed on, or yesterday afternoon, when you signed on to the product, all of the new functionality that's been brought to you to give you more value to your day-to-day processes was seamlessly installed and released to you without any downtime or disturbance to your day-to-day use of the platform. So the January release, just to remind you, of course, it's the Voyager release that you can get full access to all of the information relating to that release on our website. And I'll remind you of exactly where you can go to access all of that information. And of course, more importantly, to look at the demonstrations, each key piece of change that has happened within the platform this month. So without further ado, I shall show you and remind you, of course, of all the great functionality that we have brought to you yet again this month. So let me just start by sharing my screen and let's take a deep dive into what exactly has been brought to you and, of course, more importantly, what will bring more value to you as you use the system. So just to start off with one of the very first pieces of functionality, which is our SLAs on contracts. So SLAs, or service level agreements, is something that we released to you last year and brought as part of a key piece of improvement around your service call management. So what this does is it ensures that all of your communications, all of your service levels, it brings consistency around the time it takes for you to take a service call on board and to ensure that those service calls are addressed, whether that be a call out, whether that be a phone call or emails that you're tracking against your customer, to make sure that's done in a timely fashion. In addition to that, we also released the contract functionality, which enabled you to record items that are under contract or under warranty with your customers. So that could be services or products that you could track and trace if they have a start and end date, for example, within the year, a bit like the relationship that you have with us as an end user of Enterpryze. We have to be able to track formally all those contracts that we have in place with you to ensure that from, for example, January to December, that you get looked after, and of course, more importantly, that you get looked after in a timely fashion, and all of those responses are tracked, audited, and of course, potential risks in regards to those calls not being addressed on time are also looked after for you. So with the addition this month, we're allowing you to assign and add the SLA directly onto the contract. So what does this mean? That when you add the SLA onto the contract, it means that you'll be able to take the contract, link it directly to your service call, and it will automatically assign that particular SLA to that service call. So it really helps your teams to ensure that those commitments with your customers are honoured, but obviously to align you to the fact there could be potential risks around calls or services not being addressed on time, but to ensure that they're all caught and dealt with before they become an actual problem. So that's real value, of course, to using this on a day-to-day basis, or obviously within the contractual time with your customer. So as you can see there on screen, it's very, very simple. When you're adding a sales contract, you can simply assign the contract SLA directly to the contract itself. So up to now, you've been able to assign that as a default to your customer. So even if you have a default SLA assigned to your customer, when you go to add your service call and pick up that particular contract, it will then assign the SLA that's assigned to the contract itself. So I'll go through that obviously when I show you the live demonstration, just so that you can easily see how that will follow through on the system, and of course the value of that. And of course that all comes as well and will obviously help with analysing your KPIs and looking at it holistically overall to see that calls are being responded to on a timely fashion within your teams. Next up, we have, again, just in relation to the service calls. So auto-create activities. So simply, what is this? So simply we can basically extend the advanced emailing function that you currently have available to you on your sales and purchase transactions to automatically create an activity record for tracking when the email is being sent out or when the service call is being emailed out to your customer. So again, another value piece around audit and tracking, being able to obviously include any attachments or PDFs that are saved as well to the service call to be included in the outgoing email. So it just means that you've timestamped it, you've tracked it. So we have an activity then that is saved against the service call to say that you did send out the email. And then of course, when you click into the activity, you can see exactly what was said and of course the day and the time. So for audit purposes, you can see exactly and track that email that went out to your customer. So another nice simple addition to the system, and you can see there again, that's all done through the share button. So the share button is your advanced emailing that you have already on your transaction screens. So now we've just extended that then directly to your service calls as well. Next up, we have MRP. So our enhanced MRP, as you know, respects all of your stock levels around commitments on sales orders, purchase orders, and of course, particularly around components on production, and of course, stock on production. So what we've done here to ensure that, particularly where you have fast moving stock, so large volumes of stock, and you want to look at perhaps the minimum stock levels. So where you need to have a minimum of that stock in stock at any one time. Well, how do I reorder to that minimum stock level and ensure that I don't have stock outs on that fast moving stock? So looking at larger volumes, we needed to ensure that you had the ability to set that reorder level based on your minimum stock levels. So it's important to note here that when it comes to the definition against your stock items, you have the ability to define minimum, maximum, and a reorder quantity against each of your stock items. So through the MRP now, you'll be able to select that minimum stock level and then of course select the additional stock levels, whether you want to see the free stock that's below or at minimum stock level, and run the MRP for that. So taking care of those large volumes of data and ensuring that those stockouts don't happen in a timely fashion and ensuring obviously optimal inventory levels at all times. So I'm sure that's going to be a great value add for a lot of our customers out there utilizing the production option. And of course, reorder to minimum stock level applies as well if you're utilizing the item reordering function, which is in the purchasing module as well. So it applies to both of those screens. Next up, we have invoice automation. So in around the invoice automation, we released an update and functionality that allowed you to display, to view, or to hide the PDF on screen. So this is where you've gone to the process of scanning your invoices, so whether you've sent those on in bulk through to the scanned email address, or if you've uploaded those or imported them directly into the invoice automation grid itself. When you go then to edit that particular invoice, we have now set it to default and display the PDF on screen at all times. You have full control, of course, as always over this. Even though it defaults to automatic display, you can simply click on the Hide PDF button to take it off the screen. The reason why we've put it on as default is that, particularly around the time of machine learning, if this is the first time for you to perhaps be purchasing goods from a particular supplier and an invoice has come in, and to familiarize the system, and particularly around machine learning for the automation piece, around learning the products that this particular supplier will automatically sell to you. So it's just a better way of viewing the information on screen, being able to scroll down, keep the PDF on view and do a match-up on screen and just ensure that the information and validate the data as you do it, and of course always in real time. So the value here is reducing errors, speeding up the process and just simplifying the review on screen as you utilize it on a day-to-day basis. But like I said, very simply, you can simply click on hide PDF if that's not relevant to you when you're utilizing the invoice automation. And of course, as always, with all of our updates, it's hard to go into and dive deeply into all of the benefits and all of the value that we've brought to you in one single update. But just to give you an overview here of all the features and functions that we've delivered this month. So particularly around sales, you can see here we have a lot of pieces here around the UI in particular. So we've added the payment terms to the email and billing screen. So this is just a new column chooser that you can now go into your elliptical menu, into your column chooser and drag and drop the payment terms. So then that could be used as a filter within your email and billing to filter further down on payment terms ID, that if you wanted to target a specific payment term for the purpose of emailing out invoices or statements, etc., that you can target those. We've got a great new feature around item lines. So this is great value add when you're entering in transactions that perhaps require large volumes of data to be input onto those transactions. In particular, for example, around quotes or around orders, you can have an Excel sheet with all of the lines on that particular Excel sheet, and you can very simply copy and paste or import the full spreadsheet directly into your transaction. So take a look at that one, and I've got more to come around that as well on a pop-up this week just to educate you further on utilizing that as well further. So great value add there just on volumes of data and reducing the time down that it takes to input those transactions. Plenty more listed there, as you can see. Ability to create a credit note from a closed invoice. Lots around the document editor. New UI enhancements are rolled out to when you edit and create a transaction. So you know you have the new columns button, exporting to Excel. And of course, you can reorder your columns on screen as well. So just to make you fully aware of that, and all you have to simply do is drag and drop a column and just to reorder that if you want things in a different order on screen. And again, the payment terms ID, we've added that to all of the grids on your sales transactions. On the services, SLAs by customer. So again, that you can update the SLAs. You'll actually see that on the live demonstration as we go through it now as well. And around accounting. So we've built a new posting periods grid directly into the accounting module. And the idea around this was really to make it easier for you to obviously manage your posting periods going forward, and particularly where you don't want to force it to align with the calendar year, which is naturally how we had it defined up to date, which was January through to December, that you'll have the ability to customize that going forward. So if that's something that's important to you, and particularly maybe if you're thinking about for 2027, for example, make sure you have a conversation with support around that and the possibilities of what you should do in advance before changing your financial periods, and just get advice on that in advance. And of course, with Deferrer, we introduced Deferrer to you towards the end of last year as well. Just done a small UI change there just to show you the invoice deferral date, which is really just the first date of that first part of the journal that clears out, for example, the revenue or the costs amount into the balance sheet. It'll default to the invoice date instead of, for example, today's date on the very first part of the journal. So do take a look at that. And of course, as always, everything that's been detailed here, and of course in the previous slides, I have it all detailed as well for you on the Help Centre, and of course all the demonstrations that you can follow through step by step as well. So without further ado, let me just dive over into the live system, and as always, just take you through those first few features that I showed you and the changes, just to show you exactly how they are implemented and how they can be utilised within the platform very, very simply. So let me just share my screen with you, and we'll jump on over. Perfect. Okay, so starting off here, we're just going to take a look at the SLAs on contracts. So we're here in the services module and into contracts. So this is the new addition. I'm just going to simply create a new contract just to show you how this works. So if I go here to new sales contract, I'll pick up an item contract at this point, and I have a customer here that I want to use, And let me just collect that customer. And if we come on down here, you can see here, we've introduced this new bar that says contract SLA. As you can see, because this particular customer has a default SLA, it has picked up that default SLA at this point for the contract. But I might decide, depending on what I've defined within my contract or within my SLA details, my SLA agreements, I might decide, well, actually, for this contract going forward, I'm going to change it. I want to ensure that this particular contract, maybe it's a particular item, and you want to ensure that the customer gets the service levels that they need and they're consistent, and perhaps they need to have the turnaround faster, or perhaps it just needs actually longer time to cover those particular agreements. So I'm just going to change it there just to show you that we can. And I'm just going to quickly add an item here. And then what we'll do is we'll take it through then to a service call just to show you how that then affects the service call itself. So let's just add that item, and let me just, it doesn't matter, I'll just put the contract to the end of April, for example, and let me just save that. Of course, we can email that out, that's fine. So when it now comes to creating a service call for this particular customer, I've actually got a service call already added, just to say in advance, and you can see here it's got the SLA already assigned to it, which is this column here. Let me just show you that here. So I'm just going to come in to the service call itself. I'm going to come in here to edit. And because we've just added a new contract, you can see here the service contract here is currently empty. Let me select the latest contract, and you will see, of course, the default SLA is there already. So 2 hours for Dublin. I'm going to select the new contract, and you can see there automatically the SLA has updated to the contracted SLA. So that's what it means. So the whole idea here is to link in directly now with the contract itself. So if you've got a service level agreement based on a particular contract and you want to ensure that every service call from that point on adheres to that particular timeline, you can ensure that by changing the SLA at the contract stage and then linking your service call directly to that particular contract. So of course, it's more visibility, it's more consistency on delivery of service as well with your customers. And you can see here as well that, of course, as a result of changing the SLA, the expected closing date will have moved, because we can see that very simply. If I was to switch that back, the SLA will change, and back again, it will change again. So of course, response times, and as this service call then is updated and saved, you know, by even viewing the service call itself on screen, it will show you if it's overdue, how long it's been open. And of course, we can see that as well on the service calls grid. So we can see there all the relevant status, that it's open, when the service call was started, expected to close in 1 day. And of course, we can analyze it even further, of course, as always, directly on the grid here. So you can see there's the service call. It's now updated to the next SLA. We've got the item on display, so all the various columns, and of course if we want to build a filtered report then to analyse that further, we can. So just makes you stay more consistent on those response times and makes all your team members accountable as well for all those calls with your customers. So in addition to that, of course, what else can we do on the service call? So I mentioned about the share button. So this is your advanced emailing. So now what we can do, that we've got the service call in place, we can click on share, and we can specify if we want to send the email to a number of persons. So I'm just picking my recipient here. We can change the email message, as you can do with all of your other transactions, your sales and purchase transactions. So this is your content and text screen here that you can change. But more importantly, I can come down here and I can say, create an activity. I can click here as well to attach PDFs if they exist on the service call. Now, this particular service call, I don't have one on it, but if it was listed here, I'd be able to select that particular PDF. And very simply, if I just click on send, so let me just send that. So we've got activity is saved. The document is emailed, so I've got notification straight away on screen. And it will refresh the service call. And what we will see then down the bottom here, under the activities, is a stamped closed activity recording that email has been sent out as an activity to the customer. And of course, if I want to review that particular activity further, I can simply drill in and I can see exactly what it is that I said on my email to the customer, what it is that and of course, more importantly, the date, the time, and of course, who it was assigned to, who sent it out. So again, more direct communications with your customer and making your team members more aware of those communications and ensuring that they are captured directly on your service calls as well as other transactions. So moving on then to our MRP. So if we come in here to production, and I'm just going to keep this nice and simple for you. I'm just going to look at stock items, not bill of materials. And I've also reduced this down to look at a specific product group so you can see it easier on screen, which is my bike, back to my red bike, my bike components. So you can see here, we've introduced the reorder 2, which is minimum stock level. I'm going to leave that as is. And of course, I can show items that are free stock is below minimum, or at minimum, or below or at, or on hand stock. So whatever it is that's important to me in terms of our stock levels to ensure that we get the right stock outages and report on those on screen. And of course, if I want to include any additional commitments. So for example, we might have committed stock for stock levels. So that might be on your sales orders, purchase orders, include stock on POs for stock levels, raw materials that are committed to production, or finished products that are committed on production orders as well. So if you want to include certain stock outages at this point, you can also apply those filters. But just keeping it simple, let me just apply the filters for you. We have a nice short list here so you can easily see what they are. So what I get to see here is where I have minimum stock. So rather than looking at maximum stock, I get to see minimum stock, and I'm looking for free stock below where the free stock is below minimum. And of course, it's going to give me a suggested reorder quantity, which is simply the difference between the free stock and the minimum stock. And that's the suggested reorder. So the suggested reorder will be built on all of those, depending on the stock levels that you choose, or depending on if you want to go for on hand, that's the suggested reorder. And of course, I can also populate that automatically, as we know, directly to our reorder column here, if I want to then go and create purchase orders based on that, and of course, order that stock then directly from our supplier or suppliers, depending on what you have down here. So again, I've just kept it simple based on one supplier. So it just makes it easy then to follow through. So another great addition, and last but not least, around the purchasing. So in purchase automation, let me just quickly show you this here. When we come into purchase automation, and let me just bring up one that I haven't done any reviews on. I'll just pick the second one here. And if we just click on edit, so now very simply what we have is we have the PDF automatically on view on the right hand side of the screen. So it just makes it easier to keep that on screen. So as you scroll down, you can see there what happens. It will keep the detail lines on view as you scroll down through the screen. And of course, as always, you can hide the PDF. So if that's not relevant to you at this point, maybe it's a service, it's a regular service invoice that you're bringing in for regular services such as light, heat, etc. You know, if you don't need to view the PDF and it's something quite common, you don't need to learn from the lines or to track the product, you can just take it off view or simply click on view again to bring it back in. So it really just is a default on screen to bring that information on screen and to keep it on screen as you reconcile and match up your lines for the scanned purchase invoice. So lots of wonderful updates, as I've said, that have come this particular month. And again, just to remind you of where to find all of the relevant information. So here on our website, enterpryze.com, always check out in our resources page, we have the roadmap. We have the demos, so I will be updating that for you in the next day as well, so on the demos. But check out our roadmap to see what's coming. In the About Us, in our blogs, we detail all of the updates as and when they've been released. So we give you the full value of what those updates are. So for example, you can see one here on Voyager. Take a read, all very informative around what we've brought to you this particular month. And of course, other research as well that we've done in relation to business scenarios that could be relevant to you and maybe just helps to educate everybody as well. In addition to that, we have the Help Centre, help.enterprise.com. In the news and updates, as always, there's an article here at the very top of the screen. It's always the latest article. So if you look here under latest updates, we've got Voyager. And for all of those elements that I talked about on the presentation, we have a step through demonstration of each of those key changes as and when they've happened. So the demonstration will take you through step by step through the screen changes. And as I said, we've been incorporating particularly around the accounting for the posting periods and around the copy and paste for the sales transactions. You can see there it's got its own demonstration. You will get access to those directly on our website on the demos page this week. Well, as always, thank you so much for joining me today on Always Getting Better. And I look forward to seeing you obviously next month on the next release. And more importantly, for those that are joining me in the morning on the Enterprise University, I look forward to seeing you online as we discuss everything around our stock. So if that's something that you would find of value to you, do check out our link. Again, if you go into enterprise.com, go into resources and go into the Enterprise University, you'll get access to register for the university, and you can join me again at 9:30 in the morning to find out and get educated on everything stock on the system. Thank you so much, and I wish you a very good rest of day and morning for those that are around the globe. So thank you, and see you all again soon. Take care.